That particular summit, we were aware of the fact that President Bush had been rather adamant publicly about the fact that there was no set agenda in terms of items. They apparently were going to be talking about various things. So as interpreters, of course, that made it a little bit more difficult for us because we had to try and prepare for every kind of eventuality. And we had a day. We arrived a day in advance of the meeting, so we had a whole day to study. The whole scenario had changed overnight because of the terrible weather conditions and the wind. So it turned out that we were going to have all of the meetings on the Soviet cruise liner that was moored in the harbor, and that there weren't going to be any meetings out on the water, out on those respective naval vessels. So, you know, I was relieved in a way, and as I was walking across the gangplank to get on to the Maxim Gorky, I was thinking to myself, these people are never going to know how lucky they are that they didn't have to climb up that rope ladder. Anyhow, when I got we came into the setting. The Soviets were very hospitable, very cordial hosts. And, you know, there was some kind of atmosphere, I think maybe because everything had sort of been improvised somehow, but it was kind of, I would say, a little bit festive even. You know, everybody seemed in a pretty good mood, and I think all the principals and all the delegations felt kind of like they were a little bit awestruck by what had happened, the way things had gone, and they were slightly bemused that all of this had happened. And I think they kind of took a sort of jocular attitude towards it, and I think that they were just, you know, kind of really sort of fascinated with the way everything was turning out. I've never seen him so relaxed as he seemed to be at that meeting. And Mikhail Sergeyevich, you know, people noticed a lot of things about him, but I don't know how many people always noticed that he had this kind of mischievous twinkle in his eye. And he was nonetheless always very decorous and very courtly. But I noticed that he was very relaxed as well, and that twinkle was still in his eye. And those two men, I thought when they were sitting there so relaxed and kind of snuggled into that banquette, just seemed to have suddenly a lot more humane kind of disposition towards each other. Somehow there seemed to be a more humane kind of disposition towards the positions of the other side. And in general, it was just really very kind of edifying to feel that one was able to kind of help facilitate communication between these people. However, I will say that, you know, this situation, what happened there, certainly pointed out to everybody that, you know, we were all in this kind of common human situation. And that the only thing that was going to, if we wanted as human beings not to be vanquished, if we wanted not just to survive, but if we wanted to triumph as human beings, it was going to be necessary to do all of the things that those respective staffs had done the night before to get ready for this improvisational meeting that they managed to put together so very quickly. People had to manifest creative imagination and the willingness to innovate and a willingness to compromise and a willingness to cooperate. And I think in a certain respect that everybody kind of realized that somehow in their heart of hearts. And I think that the upshot of that whole meeting was that on some level, every participant realized that, and it was really very uplifting and really very positive, and I thought in that respect very enjoyable. So I just like to say that it's been my pleasure to share some of these recollections with you, some of my takeaways from that experience, and I'd like to wish the populace of Malta a very happy upcoming holiday season, and I'd like to express the hope that in the future, Malta, wonderful, exciting, unexpected, beautiful Malta, we'll continue to have the opportunity to provide such an historic and symbolic kind of venue for various of our players in this human drama to continue their work towards making a better future for mankind. Grazie.